the U.S. press secretary admitting very proudly so that the Trump team is pushing for more U.S. citizen deportations. And we say more because we've already been seeing them. So let's see the announcement here that this is in the works. They're looking for a way to do it. This is the Carolyn Levitt, our press secretary, telling us exactly what's going on, saying the quiet part out loud. Here we go.
The president has discussed this idea quite a few times publicly. He's also discussed it privately. You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would be heinous, violent criminals who have broken our nation's laws repeatedly. And these are violent, repeat offenders in American streets. The president has said, if it's legal, right? If there is a legal pathway to do that, he's not sure. We are not sure if there is. It's an idea that he has simply floated and has discussed very publicly as in the effort of transparency. Reagan.
And then here is Trump's response. Also, just looking for a way to maneuver this so it can just be a thing. And we don't, totally cool. Totally cool.
The president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas they're going to be discussing?
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, if he would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different. If they can house these horrible criminals for a lot less money than it costs us, I'm all for it, but I'd only do according to the law. But I have suggested that, why should it stop just at people that cross the border illegally? We have some horrible criminals, American grown and born. And if we have somebody that bops an old woman over the head, if we have somebody that is in jail 20 times and goes back and shoots people all over the place and then has a bad judge or a bad prosecutor that do nothing about him, all they worry about is politics, they don't worry about that. I think if we could get El Salvador or somebody to take them, I'd be very happy with it, but I have to see what the law says. Okay, what else?
El Salvador. This is, everything's been setting up for this to be the new normal, and the fact that the language he's using there, Keaton, and same with Carolyn Levitt, the same language they're using is basically saying, we're going to tell you that they're violent. We're going to create the definition of what they are, and then that's what they are. And it's the same thing we see with the anti-Semitism. You're anti-Semitic because we said so, because your behavior tells us that you're going to be, so you don't even have to be violent. I know they're using the word violent, but as we've already seen, Keaton, over and over again, people are violent with their intentions. And once you put intentions into the mix, you can call anybody a criminal and you can do whatever you want to them because you're setting this precedent, right? I mean, that's where we're at now. And there's not enough people on the Trump side that maybe at one point would have been not okay with this before Trump was in his second term, before October 7th even. They'd be not okay with this because they used to be about free speech and they used to understand that words aren't violence. So these are the things I'm looking at when I hear them talk like this. And I just think there's too much of their base that think this is okay. And the El Salvador thing is totally okay when we know it's not. I want to talk more about the El Salvador thing, but your thoughts on so far on these two very openly candid admitting they're admitting what the plan is and they're saying it out loud and it's totally fine with their base.
Well, yeah, I mean it's the slippery slope theory come alive. What a steep slope it was between them saying, we're doing targeted deportations of violent criminals. This was, the Holman roundups in, January, right after Trump took office, to now here we are talking about, well, actually, wait a minute, maybe American citizens can be sent there if they're violent enough. So it was pretty easy to see coming that these people are not going to exercise any kind of restraint. We just showed, on top of that, we covered the segment this afternoon where there are two different reports, one by Bloomberg, one by CBS. The Bloomberg report says 90% of the people they sent to CCOT have no criminal record in the United States. The CBS report says 75% of people who they've deported to CCOT have no criminal record at all anywhere, meaning even in Venezuela where they came from. No record of any kind. And yet, without due process, they were sent to this hellhole. We know examples of people who have been sent there wrongfully. The Trump administration admitted Kilmar Abrego Garcia was sent there wrongfully because he was ratted on by someone else who got rounded up with him outside of Home Depot, who said he was in a gang. You know, when you get rounded up like that, there's a lot of pressure to, talk shit about people who you rounded up with. The idea of, hey, if I cooperate, maybe they'll be nice to me. The soccer player who was sent there because his tattoos were mistaken for gang tattoos. It's absolutely horrible. You have mostly innocent people being caught up in this. Not only is Trump not trying to undo those mistakes, they are fighting the courts who are telling them they have to. You had the federal judge there say, this Kilmar has to be brought back. Not only did Trump not say, okay, we'll do it, he's trying to fight that ruling, insisting they don't have to do. Well, you've already admitted it was an error. So you would think you wouldn't even need to be compelled by a court to try and fix that. You'd think out of just basic humanity, you would try and fix that mistake yourself and get the guy back. No, they don't want to because, final part of this, the appeal of the Trump administration now to the voters is that there are a lot of people out in the streets, some of whom came here illegally, some of whom came here seeking asylum illegitimately, some of them were born here. He said native-born criminals who want to beat the shit out of you, who want to kill you, and we are going to crack down on people who mean you harm. That's really the whole pitch. Like, I don't really hear much about economic empowerment coming from Trump nowadays. Certainly no talk of peace or ending the wars. I mean, they're doing the exact opposite, 1,000 miles an hour. No, their entire pitch to the voters, and it's a very common, fascist pitch. There are people out there who are going to attack you. We're going to protect you, and you need to empower us for your safety.
Yeah.
That's a very, very old, tried and true authoritarian trick. Works every time. And we'll see. We'll see, how well it works now.
Yeah.
I think as the economic conditions get worse, people are going to catch on that this whole mass deportation thing was just a boondoggle. It was never to protect jobs. It was never to keep labor costs high. This was just the pitch. This was the thing to get you to vote for us out of fear and empower us out of fear of the hordes who are trying to kill you while we take the world to war and basically just loot the middle class, pardon me, and the working class for all we could take them for.
Well, I thought Trump was taking on the deep state, and I'm confused because it sounds like
exactly.
he's just doing the thing.
The other part of this too, sorry that I didn't mention, is that this is basically a human trafficking operation. When Trump says it's going to cost us less money to house them in El Salvador than it'll cost us to put them up here. That's one side of it. On the other side of it, the El Salvadoran government is getting paid $20,000 a head to house these people when it only costs them $6,000 a head. That's what they say it costs them. When you look at the conditions at CCOT, I think it costs them a lot less than that. I think they're profiting a lot more than just the $14,000, but they're making at least, from what we know, $14,000 a head. So explain to me how this is not for-profit human trafficking. Both parties benefit financially, and you have people being trafficked across borders, none of which are their own, because we're talking about Venezuelans being sent from America to El Salvador. How is that not human trafficking?
Oh, it's absolutely human trafficking. It's government-sanctioned human trafficking. So apparently it's legal when the governments negotiate the price of everybody's head. And we know that El Salvador needs that money. They're very poor. They need the money. And you said like it probably doesn't cost $6,000 per person because they're throwing them in that super prison. They're just throwing them all into one room. And from what we hear, because we did cover this last week, that they bring them a whole group in to see a judge, and they sit in there for 5 minutes and they leave, and then they can say, oh, they all got to see a judge. I mean, it's horrible. You never really get to see the light of day again. And now we understand that with this new policy of let's continue to do this to U.S. citizens, even though we thought it was an accident that this happened. And I admit I fell for it because, Derek Brose put this out when it first happened. He said, I feel like somebody warned us this would happen. The Trump administration accidentally sent the Maryland father to El Salvador. And then what happened was you can't find him now. So we thought, oh, well, this is going to be a big, big blunder. But like you said, Keaton, fast forward to now this week, he's not, they don't want him back. They don't want him back. Why? Because, and this kind of sums it up from what is politics. The mistake of deporting an innocent man to El Salvador is likely an attempt to make it possible to do the same to anyone, including U.S. citizens, without legal consequences. It absolutely was on purpose. The more I look at it now, Keaton, this was absolutely, there's no intention of finding this guy. It's not going to happen. Now you set a precedent. You continue to do this. And as they just told us, press secretary and Trump himself, we're going to look for a way to do it. We're going to look for a way to do it. Well, we've already done it. So it's already happened. So we can just keep doing it. There needs to be there needs to be more pushback on this besides people like us. I mean, people that are considering themselves MAGAs should be furious about this, but I don't know. Maybe they're just too confused to see what's happening right now. I don't know. We need more of them to stand up.
Crime and punishment, fire and brimstone. That's what they're all about. That's what they're all about. And the other part of this too, pardon me, is and this could be partly why they're not trying to get him back. They might not be able to find him. I mean, that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but there are tens of thousands of people in this place thrown into these cells like chickens in a chicken coop.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee you could find a guy once he's in there. This has a capacity for 40,000 people. Now, I don't know if they're at capacity or not, but they're talking about creating more capacity, so they must be getting close. You must be in the neighborhood of at least 30,000 people there. 30,000 inmates being housed like animals. There's no guarantee you could get the guy back if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, but there is something about the fact that you needed to have one go through to say that we're not just doing this for the first. Our feet are already
I don't discount that. I'm just saying, even if they wanted him back, I don't know if they can get him. And if they don't feel like they can get him back, then they're going to really fight the effort to get him back. Because what happens if the judge says you better bring this guy back, and they say, well, we can't find him. We can't find him. I mean, I hate to say this, but he could be dead. It's a violent prison. You know. If you're there and you're not connected to a gang member, that makes you all the more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Man,
this is again, we don't have enough people speaking out about this. We need more people on the Trump side that believed this guy was anti-war, believed he was about bringing free speech back. He's doing the exact opposite at every turn, in every way, shape, or form. The people on the left are a little too still caught in their Trump derangement syndrome to know exactly how to be mad at him. They're just not fully understanding what the thing is that is happening right now. So it does feel, Keaton, it does feel like we're kind of alone in this space where we can kind of look at the entire madness and have a real conversation, but not too many other people are having it. They're still kind of stuck on their team. And I think that's the part that really infuriates me, is that there should be more people having these honest discussions like we're having right now. That's just my take.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, politics is naturally frustrating in that way. Like, the Tesla takedown protests a week and a half ago now, almost 2 full weeks ago, there were a lot of libs at those protests. Those protests were a mixture of traditional Democrat voters, resistance liberals, and some of the Occupy Wall Street types, and some of the pro-Palestine types. There were Free Palestine chants that were being led at the one that we covered, which is great. Then you had the hands-off protests, which really were more on the shit-lib side of things, to the point where not only did they not put hands off Gaza in one of their demands, they put hands off NATO in their demand. Now, they are, in my opinion, correct to be concerned about Doge and all of the sort of actions that they are trying to take against all these, entitlement programs and things like that. But obviously just a major blind spot on issues of war and peace, both on the Ukraine front and the Israel-Palestine front. This is what's frustrating about politics, and this is where team sport politics becomes sort of minimally useful in certain contexts, because you're forced to just throw in with one team and fight for them based on the calculation that, all things considered, they're better than the other team. Now, that, is considered productive engagement during election cycles, but there's more to politics than that. You know, when you look at the tariffs, Trump called off the tariffs because it wasn't just Democrats screaming at him to do it. It was people who supported him screaming at him to do it. It was Bill Ackman. It was Dave Portnoy. It was Jamie Dimon.
Right.
Right. So, you know, there's more to politics than just throwing in with one team. In fact, the most powerful moments in politics are when people's own supporters turn against them, when there's friction and tension and a fracture even within one coalition and one movement.
These protests, we have to be able to communicate exactly what constitutes a real resistance movement and what doesn't. And I think that's the space that seems like there's so few people in that we're able to understand. And it's not that hard. Once you step out of your tribe, you can see what constitutes a resistance movement. It's one where you don't have the leader of your party showing up to talk to you. You don't have a Nancy Pelosi showing up and saying, yeah, we're hands off. If you show up to a rally, if you show up to a protest and Nancy Pelosi shows up to talk to you, you made a mistake. Not your fault. You didn't know better. Turn around, go back in your car and go home. You don't F up again.
Right.
A real resistance movement, you don't have that happen. And you don't have Bernie and AOC saying they're fighting the oligarchy when they are the oligarchy. That's not a resistance. A resistance movement is Free Palestine. It's when people there's going to be pushback from everyone. There's going to be media blackouts. There's going to be spinning and misreporting about who's being violent or who's not. There's going to be targeted takedowns of people and punishments. Those are real resistance movements.